So first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. We've got great speakers today. We've got Jackie on Zoom, who would normally be doing this, Jackie Ware, but I will do a quick introduction. My name is Maya Kaisen, and I'm the Silver Rainbow team, the team leader, in fact, and our first speaker is Karen Glaetzer. Good. Palliative nurse practitioner from elder care. Karen, and after Karen, Jackie will speak, and then Robin, Leaton, Community Engagement and Diversity Manager ECH, and then Aries Chen, Lgbti Connector for Creative Community Program.
Thank you for the invitation to come and speak to you today. I thought I'd just sort of take the opportunity to talk about the project in general that we've been awarded through at Elder Care, which we call the Hospice in Residential Aged Care Facility Project. This is a project that we commenced in October last year, and we've just been extended to the end of December this year, so it's a bit over 12 months. If we just go to the first slide, I can just start to explain a little bit. So we submitted a successful tender to SA Health, and it was a Commonwealth funded project, but it had the funding was matched by the state, so the Commonwealth gave a bucket of money and then the state matched it. And in the other states and territories in Australia, they also received the Commonwealth component of the funding, but they actually directed it to specialist palliative care services to provide in-reach services into aged care facilities within the facilities, so we're not getting people coming from outside coming in. So 7 of our, with elder care, we have about currently have about 940 residents across 11 sites across South Australia, but we just focused on 7 sites for the project, and there are sites at Lambie, Cottage Grove, Seaford, Acacia Court, which is down at Hendon, Trowbridge at Payneham, Sash Ferguson at Mount Barker, and Evanston Park, which is out near Gawler. So they're the sites that we've conducted this project on. So the main components of the project, I guess the biggest component was this opportunity to offer traineeships for new personal care workers. So these are people that never worked in aged care before, that we brought them on to our team. We actually put them through the Cert 3 in aged care through a registered training organisation, and we've used Time, which is at Mile End. So they've put these trainees through their Cert 3 in aged care, and the second group's just about, we did it in 2 groups. We ended up having 26 people. We were funded originally for 24, but we were able to expand it out. So the second group has just about finished their Cert 3 as well, so we've had 2 groups that have progressed really well. And now the second part of their training is going to be additional training specifically in palliative care. Because I guess that was the big gap that had been recognised, that people coming into aged care as new personal care workers, they just do a basic training course, but they don't have that additional palliative care component, which we've found is really important because, you know, many of our residents require that sort of support. So they're employed for 3 days, so they do 2 days doing their Cert 3, and then the third day they're actually on site and then paired with a current care worker, where they actually get additional mentoring and support. So, you know, we're not just throwing people in at the deep end, we're actually hopefully giving them a really good induction into aged care with lots of support. We have 2 palliative care educators that have been employed for the project as well, and they go out to the sites and actually work with those carers as well to actually show them the ropes, teaching them what to do. So that's the biggest part of the project that we're funding, and you know, we've had a lot of hiccups along the way, but you know, we've progressed to this stage, and you know, it's all going pretty well. After the first 6 months of their training, then they'll be able to do independent rosters, so they'll actually be able to start working independently at our sites. The other component of the program was education for our existing staff and also for the general practitioners that come into our sites. And we're doing our first workshop for general practitioners tomorrow night. down at Lgbti, which is our largest site down at on Oaklands Road at Warradale. And we're also doing a lot of, because of COVID, we've had to change the way that we deliver education, and we can't release staff to do education like we proposed. So we're doing a lot of virtual training at the moment. The other component of the project was the introduction of what we call needs rounds. So it sounds a bit bizarre when you see that, you know, we're trying to look at those people who we expect might die within the next 6 months. But, you know, the whole idea around that is actually recognising people that are deteriorating and actually making sure that we have really good plans in place for their care when they get to that end of life stage of their illness. So we're trying to, by identifying these residents, we're then able to actually look at what advanced care planning they have. If they have it in place or if they don't have it in place, we're able to review it, and we're also then able to meet with the family, organise what we call a palliative care case conference. So then we arrange to meet with the family, include the resident if they're able to be included, and then really start to plan out how we're going to manage the next 6 months of their life, and what sort of care we're going to provide, you know, whether we're going to be sending them off to hospital or whether we're going to be working to keep them in their residential care facility. So that's a really it's been a really good opportunity, and through those rounds we've actually been able to identify, I think last count we're up over 100 residents that we've been able to identify and be proactive about the care. And it's meant that when they get to the end of their life, they're not sent off to hospital, they're able to be cared for on site. The final component, which we haven't commenced yet but we're going to be starting around August, is we're going to be offering these family information sessions to educate families about what to expect through the palliative care end of life. So it's a bit more, you know, you come if you want type situation. And particularly we're going to be focusing on the families of our residents in our memory support areas, because we find often they find it really difficult to understand what happens when people get, you know, particularly people with advanced dementia get towards the end of life. So we're really excited to be looking at how we're going to be offering these sessions for families, inviting them along. And I think the final, is there one more slide or is that it? Sorry. Yeah, this was just a bit more detail about the traineeships because that's what I was specifically asked to talk about. I have covered some of this previously, but it just recognises that the palliative care assistants are the ones at the bedside. They're the ones providing the day-to-day care for the residents, and so they're the ones that need to be highly trained to ensure that people are getting the best care. So that's why the traineeships are focusing on our care workers. Like I said, they do their 2 days a week at time doing their Cert 3 in aged care, and then they do additional palliative care modules which we're delivering in-house. And we're also able to train our current, we've got enough funding to train 75 of our current PCAs, put them through that palliative care module as well. So that's pretty exciting to be able to offer that more broadly than just the traineeships. And like I said, they're supported by clinical educators that are on site, and after the first 6 months they're then able to go on to independent rosters, so they're able to actually, once they've received their qualification, and at the end of the traineeship, if they want to stay on, you know, there'll be opportunities for ongoing employment if it's a mutual decision that they want to remain that. So like I said, it's a pilot. It's helped us to iron out a lot of the issues that arise. We're fortunately, for some of the participants, we've been able to get some extra funding, some boost funding to actually, through the Commonwealth Government, to actually support their traineeships, which meant that, you know, it's made it much more financially viable for us to be able to provide this project. But that's it really, in a nutshell. Yeah, I'm happy to take any questions that people might have.
Can I ask what SA Health want out of you at the end of it?
They want a model that they can actually, they're looking at a model that hopefully they can replicate across aged care providers in South Australia. That's the idea. Yeah. So, and particularly the traineeship model was the real focus. But they're also looking at the other components of the project and seeing which of those components have had a real impact on not only the quality of care that we've provided, but also the ability to support people on site. We've actually got 3 palliative care nurse practitioners that are employed through the project, so we're providing a lot of the on-site support and care.
Is it your intention to be able to offer, almost 100% death in your facility rather than a hospital? Or, because I imagine clinically that might be...
Yeah, what it is about people's choice. What we're trying to do is support people to die where they choose. Yeah. And if that is actually on site and they're not transferred to hospital for the last days, then that, you get the occasional person that's their request, or it's the family's request, or but more and more we're finding that the families are much more content for people to remain on site, because they understand when they get to emergency departments and all the process people have to go through there. So it's a preference, but by identifying people early enough, we're hoping that we can be more proactive about that and not actually having to transfer people unnecessarily because we're unprepared.
So Karen, can I ask, in relation to people that have dementia and their ACDs, is there much wavering towards the end of life with family changing their mind, or are they, because someone that sort of has a cognitive impairment might become distressed? And so my question is there much change in the person's wishes as they become end of life?
Yeah, particularly in the memory support areas. I guess we have to, I suppose a lot of that depends on testamentary capacity. So if people have the testamentary capacity to make changes, then they're acknowledged. But often people don't, so then we have to go on what wishes they already had in place. But also, I think a lot of people, come in without any, pre-planning, and that's the big issue, because you don't know what people want, and then families feel the burden of having to make decisions, But I'm really clear with them and saying that, what you're doing is telling me what your mother would have told me if she could have told me, rather than that you get them feeling the burden that they've had to make a choice about, stopping treatment or not treating a particular condition. So, but we do the 7-step pathways. All our nurses are, our nurse practitioners are all accredited to do them, so we can actually complete them as well. So we can, which is the 7-step pathway is a clinical plan for people that has an option for not transferring them to hospital.
Karen, how is the LGBTI issues addressed?
How are they? Well, Elder Care is a rainbow tick organisation, so they're treated in exactly the same way as anybody else. If there is, any particular requests or concerns, then we work through those as well.
So in terms of the training that you did, was LGBTI issues raised as part of the training?
I think it's covered under the... I haven't sat in on any of the Cert 3 in aged care, but I'm sure there are components within that. Are there or aren't there? Not particularly.
Karen, I might be able to help a little bit with that too. I used to work at Elder Care, and they've got their accreditation. They're also up for a re-accreditation. And Elder Care have contacted me asking about kind of the training that's out there for LGBTI, because they're planning on doing an update for all the staff again. So just keeping the word out there, getting the training.
Yeah, all the staff initially had...
There's activity happening in the background. Right. It might not be through Karen's program, but there's an LGBTI team within Elder Care.
And I know the corporate induction includes information about the LGBT, and there's a presentation that includes, because that's a really important thing to Elder Care is our rainbow tick accreditation, and so I know it's part of the corporate induction process. So all these trainees have gone through that process. But yeah, I think it probably is time because it was a couple of years ago that I remember doing the training, so it's probably is time. Yeah, but once we have some sort of advanced care planning document, then we do this 7-step pathway, which is then instructions for the staff about what they do if this person deteriorates, whether they send them to hospital, keep them at the facility, whether they provide, acute type care, or whether it's just symptom management. There's it's specified in the document.
Do you have a review process if you're concerned about the lack of detail?
Absolutely,
So
So that's often where the case conference comes in. So that's when we meet with the families and the resident, if they're able to participate, and actually go through what they actually meant by what they've documented. Yeah, so we're clear about what the instructions are. Okay, I should let someone else have a chat.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm afraid I'm not there with you. I'm sorry to say, but it's been great discussion so far. And want to acknowledge that we're meeting on Kaurna country, where people have been caring for elders and others for thousands of years. So the COTA SA Rainbow Hub was also inspired in talking about COVID. How can we support people that don't have immediate supports or feel they can call on acquaintances? And that led us to thinking about the end of life period more generally. And we were successful in getting some funding from the Office for Ageing Well for a project to run through till June next year. Yeah, so it's about inclusive end-of-life care and planning. So that also includes bereavement, which, sometimes people are abandoned at that point. And, obviously people still are affected well into the future once someone's life has ended. This is about facilitating conversations in the LGBTI community across generations. A bit like the last project, we feel it's important to have those links. People might not have younger, like children or younger people in their lives that they are connected with and who can be perhaps advocates when things get difficult. And we're also a bit like what Karen was talking about. The Office for Ageing Well, part of SA Health, is interested in a model that might be replicated elsewhere. So, and this idea of a compassionate community, there's a bit of a worldwide movement, and we've made some links with Tea Tree Gully and Southern Vales, which have different compassionate community models underway, or I don't know if a model was right, but they're doing things differently. So, yeah, we can all learn from each other. And another important aspect is engaging with service providers, funeral directors, people working in the clinical area, doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, as well as pharmacists, doulas, who are end-of-life midwives, if you like. And one figure I'd heard is that it takes 16 people to support someone towards end of life. So that's quite a group to think about. And so we're trying to engage with providers from lots of different areas to complement the role that chosen family or biological family might play in the planning through to end of life care and bereavement. We have a project website which you can visit, and we're updating that with different things that have been undertaken so far. To get the ball rolling, we had a great forum in February with a couple of well-known writers who were in Adelaide for the Adelaide Festival, just to open up the, I suppose, big picture thinking rather than drilling down to advanced care directives immediately. But of course, we've also been starting to talk about those. And you can find a recording of that forum on our website. We've got a working group with people from a range of organisations, been undertaking a consultation process, held focus groups with people in Mount Gambier, Burra and Victor Harbour, as well as 3 metro locations. And that's yielded some really rich findings and food for thought, some common findings, and then each different consultation has brought up different issues as well. And one of the recurring themes is that people don't want to be educating the people that they're asking for a service from, especially when they're vulnerable at this stage of life, or they've got enough other things that they'd like to be focused on. So I think we'll be able to do some work in that area to educate or point providers to ways that they can improve their knowledge and give them some more food for thought about that. A lot of resources have come to light, people working in this area or related. And so we're looking at those, and my plan is to put them also on the website if they're LGBTI friendly or generally of use. We don't want to reinvent wheels, and we don't have funding to create fabulous resources at this point. So there's some work under, there's a toolkit that the AIDS Council of New South Wales, ACON, have put online, which is quite comprehensive. And there's also some work being done through LGBTIQ+ Health Australia, who they're working with more on the professional side, so surveying, and then they'll be looking at training and so on as well. So we're trying not to reinvent wheels or step on toes, but just keep in touch and share resources as we can. A few of the providers I've approached are keen, in particular saying, can we bring a couple of people along to the consultation sessions? And that's great, but I've said, it's not going to be that big. So it's good that there's enthusiasm out there. Once we've held those workshops next week, then we move to a co-design workshop with community members and providers to come up with a trial model. What might that look like? And the next stage is then to actually trial it and then debrief about that and evaluate and create a report, draft a report, so that others can learn from what we find. So yeah, it's a interesting process and bringing up a lot of issues for, probably of general relevance, but for our community in particular, with our history of discrimination and the fact that we face compounding issues as we age. It is really valuable to have this focused project. Happy to take questions, and it's been interesting seeing how the 3 different presentations work together and can feed into each other, I'd suggest. So thank you very much.
Jackie, can I ask a question? It's Pat. In your consultation so far, or do you envisage that you may end up with a model that might work in metro and a slightly different model, or work in the rural areas, or do you have the capacity to be able to do that?
Yeah, I think definitely. And one thought is even, just starting off with a couple of people supporting each other, rather than thinking it has to be bigger than Ben Hur. I think it's important to, have something that's going to be flexible and can be tailored to the situation. with talking to the Southern Vales community, compassionate community, they're basically looking at a sustainable model which is not funded. Like, I think they apply for grants for different, like to run deaf cafes and so on, but they're looking at what's sustainable, and I guess thinking about, does it have to be geographic based, and geography obviously comes into it, especially once you get out of the metro area and transport is more limited, for example. So, yeah, flexibility is going to be key, and just open to anything that might work, because there'll be all sorts of needs and different people interested in drawing on this, I suggest and hope.
Are any trends in what you're hearing? You've done the metro and the country focus groups. Is there any sort of trends in what you're hearing about people's willingness to support other people?
I think the level of safety people might or might not feel, especially further out that you go. So I think that's one issue. Transport, like talking to people in Borough, there's one bus a week if you want to come to Adelaide, and it has a 3-hour turnaround. So, if your medical appointment's running late, you're pretty stuffed. So issues like that, there are more options mostly for people in the city, obviously. So, try and think. That's probably one of the main things I'm aware of. I guess just the lack of choice of services generally as well, let alone LGBTI friendly. But I think on the whole, there's a sense of people being open to supporting others and interested in what that might look like. And it'd be interesting to distill it down and especially have the provider perspective as well, because, looking at what they might feel is practical, or their experience might yield some more thinking as well, I imagine, of course. And I suppose this has also yielded interest in, and the importance of the Silver Rainbow training and organisational development that we offer, but also, some interest in this community of practice. So it's, and we look forward to people spreading the word and helping us, promote what we offer, including about Rainbow Horizons, but also the Silver Rainbow program. So thank you very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Robin Leaton. I'm the Community Engagement and Diversity Manager at ECH. I know most of you. I've seen most of you around the place, so it's nice to see you all again. Myself and Aries are here today to talk about a new program that we're hoping to drag kicking and screaming off the ground. So I manage at ECH a really fantastic team called Lgbti Connect. So many of you would have heard of Lgbti Connect. That team provides a whole range of programs for LGBTI elders in primarily Adelaide Metro. And that includes like a monthly social program, a home visiting program, so a sort of an individual visiting program that we run in collaboration with COTA SA. We also do some service navigation as well. So if people are getting to the point where they are requiring some help in the home, then our connectors sit down with them and work out what that looks like and how to navigate through the process of accessing some services. So we have Pam here with us, who's one of our LGBTI connectors, and a recently retired LGBTI connector as well, who's so we've been going for about 5 years, just over. And in that time, we've become aware that there is a group of LGBTI elders that don't access our programs, whatever programs that is. And they're people who are really socially isolated, so they don't have biological family members that they can call on for support, and they don't have any sort of contacts or connections within the LGBTI community. So they don't really have anybody to fall back on if things get a bit tricky, and that's become quite a lot more in focus in the last 2 years with COVID. So there was this desire to create a program specifically for LGBTI older people who don't have those natural networks. So last year I did some co-design work. So I spoke with a whole bunch of lesbians, gay men and trans people about primarily if you were stuck at home and you didn't have anybody to call on, what sort of tasks would you find the most difficult to do and you would get sort of stuck with, yeah, so how would they manage that basically? And so we came up with this concept called created communities. So essentially we're creating a community for people who don't have a community. So the original idea was to find sort of an individual or a couple that were sort of in need and to create that community around them. So we took that idea and then we decided that we would hire a coordinator and then basically pilot that idea. And the coordinator is Aries, who sits beside me. And so he's been working with the program for 5 months. Yeah. And yeah, so I'm going to pass it over to Aries to talk about the journey so far.
Yeah. Yeah. So my name's Aries, and I just got on board in January this year, and I was called on for this program called Created Communities, and this is a program designed for like LGBTI specific people, and especially we target at people who are not eligible for like home care package or my aged care services or NDI services. So that means they have less support than other people, and usually, as Robin mentioned, LGBTI people are less likely to have like biological family with them. So it's more likely for them to have a supported network for them around them. Especially we designed this could be around where they live. So based on the local regions where this is a reachable network for them when they need different kind of supports. And in this program we designed like different kind of ways for people to supporting each other, either like meal preparation, transportation, like basic social support, IT support, gardening and things like that. And at the beginning we thought it could be like a volunteer and a client program, but later this could be like a little bit the imbalance of power in the vocabulary. So we decided to change it to participants and to encourage people to mutually support each other. As we can see, everyone has a strengths or skills that they can support each other. So that's how we decided, and the target people. And we started to get on board on the 3rd of May, and we started with like 7 or 8 participants at the moment, and we started to organize a monthly meeting with everyone joining, and also we try to introducing people with each other locally. For example, if they live like in the northern suburbs, it's more likely for them to have a small group gathering with each other, but monthly we have a bigger group, and so people can gathering and know each other. So we understand it's a bit hard for people to put up their hands for support if they do not know each other very well. And so yeah, that's we just had our first gathering last week, and I think we saw some challenges here. For example, like the COVID, some people got like become the close contact, and some people had the jabs and feel sick at home. So it makes a bit small group for us at the beginning. But I think in the future it's a still ongoing recruitment process. So we hope we can have like more participants in the program, and more people to put up their hands. Yes. Yes.
Hi. So there's been some challenges, as Aries mentioned, particularly with recruitment. So initially we had a lesbian couple who we identified who one was in her 40s and one was in her 50s. So it's not just for older people. We're actively seeking people of all ages to mutually support each other. So we had this couple requiring help, and then we were going to create this community around them. However, they withdrew from the program, and so what we've got now is a whole bunch of people who want to help each other but don't want help. So that's where we're currently. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it has its challenges, but with every community engagement program or community development program, it takes time. So that's why we're Aries has been going to local councils and GPs and everywhere he could think of to engage with LGBTI people who, as I said, aren't linked into places like ECH or COTA or Catalyst, who are the three, main people working in the LGBTI ageing space. So at the moment we're using a platform called WhatsApp, hoping to get people chatting and talking about, if somebody needs to go to an appointment, can anybody help? Or I'm going away, can somebody walk my dog, etc. So we're still aiming to get there, but that whole concept, particularly as people age, they don't want to be seen as a burden, and so that's kind of a significant barrier that people don't actually want to ask for help. Yeah. What other challenges or successes do you think has come so far?
It's
you
all
can
of a
say
sudden.
nothing.
Yep.
Sorry.
The success, I think we have like the participants, we have like people who are willing to help each other, and so far we can see, we have strengths, we have, the willing of LGBTI people to support the others. That's the strength of our community, and that's what we want to do. Yes.
Does anybody have any questions for us in terms of the program itself, or any questions really?
I have a question around, I noticed that you're excluding people who are eligible for My Aged Care, and yet My Aged Care has very little capacity to respond to this area. So I'm wondering why they were excluded from the group. Is it purely on numbers, or...?
No, so they weren't. I don't think that they're excluded. But
from the level of care they might get, the time that they might wait or something to actually get in touch with them, or somebody who is trained in that area, that response is very poor.
Yeah. So, sorry, they're not excluded from our program. So
they're not?
No. So it might be that we don't specifically target them.
I see.
Yeah, but nobody is excluded.
So can you self-refer in, or would you go, if you're eligible for MyGov, would you go through MyGov and then come to you? How would that work?
No, so it would be self-referral.
Okay.
So we haven't registered anything through My Aged Care because we're self-funded.
Yeah.
So we don't rely on any government funding at all, and it's a free program for people because it's all voluntary.
Yeah,
we don't charge anybody anything. So yeah, if you know of people who would be wanting to be connected with community, contact us via the contact details on your flyer. But yeah, anybody's welcome.
Yeah, okay. Does it need help? Like, I just think sometimes it's creating a community will then self-sustain when the wheels fall off for one person. Like, I'm in a dog walking community, and if one of us has been locked up because of COVID, we all grab the other person's dog naturally, but we didn't start the community because we needed help. We started it because we have cute dogs.
Yeah.
But could that not be the focus? Like, is that maybe a pivot that you need to think about?
So we've absolutely done that. So as I said, we've got some great participants on board, but nobody has said, I need help. So they're all willing to help. So they're all, so anybody, whether they need help or want to help is
So
very welcome.
Are any of your participants your target audience group, like the ones who are so socially isolated that they don't actually have any other resource?
Not currently.
Yeah.
No, and that's the challenge, Chris. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the challenge of how to really get in contact or know of people who are truly socially isolated. So that's why Aries has gone to
different facilities and agencies, to find people.
They may be that through the group that you've already got that are now already socially connected. They could be an avenue for identifying people that they may know in the community that can channel them through you into the program.
Absolutely.
So it's not a bad outcome, it's actually a great outcome. It's not your specific target group, the fact that you're being, to find a way, I think it's a very good idea. So perhaps supporting them to find out where that isolation is as well might be worth thinking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might have missed it coming in and out of the room, but if I'm sitting in the suburbs somewhere feeling quite isolated, how do I find out about you without knowing about you? What's your outreach? Where will I find information locally?
Where have you been, Aries?
Mainly like COTA, Glaetzer Foundation. I've been all these agencies, and also like the Department of Resources, Human Resources, or
Human Services.
Human Services, sorry. And also like been to most LGBTI friendly agencies, for example, Headspace, like the Auburn Strait GP, or all those like LGBTI friendly spaces. Also, if you go to some local city councils, you can also find our flyers there. Yes.
Have you been to the Adelaide Hills?
No, not really. Because we started the trial around like the metropolis near the city, around the city, because some of our clients are living, along the western suburbs. So we hope, like as I said, we hope it's a local support network. So we try to target at those areas first. Yes.
Is it your intention to move to the hills, to try and get anything in the hills region?
Definitely. If we have participants, of course, we would like to expand it there. Yes.
I would like to, because I live
exactly.
on Woodside.
Hills Council, I think you're not Barker Council.
Yes, exactly.
We've had some conversations with them about LGBTI communities, and I think it would be really good to go chat to them about Barker Council.
I'd love to be part of a community, and I live in Woodside, so anybody in the hills, please join.
I'm in the hills, obviously.
Awesome.
So, because I talked to some of the council people the other day, and I was just talking about basically the lack of anything. Really, that it has a specific target group. Their response was being, well, we're open to everybody, but we know that open to everybody doesn't always work.
Absolutely.
But so they were going to take up some of those issues, so it would be time. I'm happy to connect with you.
That'd be great.
About making a connection to Mount Barker Council.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Actually, that reminds me, you're talking about councils. Only councils particularly active in this area for older people.
Yeah,
great.
They do some incredible stuff.
Good stuff.
But not this. So maybe.
I know they have meeting Mondays for that supports people living with dementia too. So they're very open to ideas on the council.
Yeah, fantastic.
And they're quite interested in what the participants have to say. So
Mm.
it's a two-way street.
Great. Fabulous idea. Any other questions? And thank you for your time. And yeah, if you talk to people who might want to join us, yeah, please contact Aries and we'll get them linked in. Thank you.
Thank you.